Hello, my name is Freddie Meza, and today we'll be talking about the correlation between video games and athleticism. Before we get started, I would like to define two definitions. One being gamer. A gamer is someone who is consistently pushing or putting a lot of effort into a video game or a game in general. The second definition is an athlete. An athlete is someone who is proficient at a sport or any other physical activity or exercise. Now that we know these two definitions, let's talk about me for a little bit. I have been gaming for years, but I also have a very, very long background in martial arts. So I'll be giving my own personal experiences as well throughout this talk. Now, this talk is going to be split up in between 5 sections. Each section we're going to be looking at a perspective between a gamer and an athlete. I'm going to be giving some examples of how they relate, but also how that certain subject kind of combines both things together. Also, so you don't get confused, what we're going to do is we're going to be talking about video games and sports that are competitive in nature or have some type of pro league aligned with them. Now, let's get started. The first subject I would like to talk about today is reflexes. Reflexes are very, very, very important within a gamer and an athletic perspective. Now, from a gamer perspective itself, reflexes are very important because games bring you a challenge. You don't always know what that challenge is. You don't always know what's going to happen, so you have to respond to that challenge or to that certain thing that's happening within the game. That's where reflexes come in. For example, we're going to be using a game called Overwatch. This is a first-person shooter, which is a hero-based shooter and is very, very competitive worldwide. Overwatch itself, you have to train yourself to be good at reacting to your enemies. You have an enemy and you have to reach a certain objective. Enemies will come out of nowhere because you do not know where they're located, and also things happen pretty consecutively. It is a fast-paced game like most modern games are today, and your reflexes have to be at a higher level to essentially react. At a pro level, average gamers have a reaction time of between 240 and 260 milliseconds. Now, that seems like very fast reaction time, but compared to athletes today, it's pretty close. So, let's go with the athletic perspective. We'll use baseball in this case. Baseball, you have to keep your eye on the ball pretty consistently throughout the whole game. Whenever you go up to bat, you have less than 180 milliseconds to react to the ball being pitched at you. So that means you have to train yourself and your reflexes enough that you can react successfully to something like a ball pitch, or in a video game perspective, like an enemy shooting at you. Sometimes it defines who wins the game or does not. Next thing up is strategic thinking. Strategic thinking is very important for both subjects as well. In a gamer perspective, strategic thinking may align with the certain card you use, or may align with certain hero you use, or what map you're on in general. You have to think about what is being presented to you and how you are going to use it. So Overwatch in this case, it has a lot of heroes with a lot of different abilities. Some abilities to give more damage, some abilities to heal, some abilities to have more mobility. So you have to be strategic and think about your own abilities and how it's going to uplift the team. From an athletic perspective, strategic thinking is very important. For this example, we're going to use UFC. Whenever UFC fighters are fighting, they always have a strategy in mind. They have to be consistently on their feet. They always have to think about what the next movement is. Where are the openings? Where are my opponent's weaknesses? What is my opponent good at? These are certain things that they have to think of. But strategic thinking starts from the beginning. What I mean from the beginning is before the game even starts in this case. So, athletes have to take care of their bodies. They have to stretch, they have to breathe, they have to keep an open mind before they go into the game, or they have chances of failing. Same thing with gamers. When they go into games, they have to clear their mind, they have to warm up, they have to make sure that their wrists are loose. Pretty similar in this case as well. Now, next subject up is going to be exercise. Believe it or not, gamers have to exercise to a certain extent. Maybe not as much as normal or traditional athletes, but they still have to exert their bodies to a certain extent. Gamers have certain things they do. For example, different stretches that they can use for their wrists to make sure that their wrists don't get tired. And sometimes they do exercise to give them that extra edge so that they can win and then they can react more. Because the faster you are, the faster you can react. Now, when it comes to athletes, this is where they put in most of their work. They have to exercise their whole entire body depending on what sport they are doing. If we're going with football players, they have to think about their position. They have to think about what they're going to be doing. What is their goal? How do I exercise my body? Do I need to be big to protect my quarterback? Or do I have to be smaller, leaner, so I can get through people with the ball, so I can get to the touchdown? So there is certain exercise that you have to do, and they have to push themselves and push their bodies beyond their limit so that they can reach a new level and become a better athlete overall. So, this is very similar to gamers as well. Although, gamers have less exercise time usually. Now, let's move on to mental and physical perseverance. Sports in general teach you how to persevere. They teach you discipline. They teach you how to keep going. And if you're a professional, the big inspiration to keep going is because you love what you're doing. Now, in certain cases, people may have different objectives to keep going and become professional. In a gamer perspective, for example, there are many rewards that a game can give you. A new rank, new cosmetics, some bragging rights, but you still have that mental and physical perseverance to move forward. Believe it or not, gamers get tired too. Hours spent in front of a TV is quite stressful as well. TV or monitor, to be honest. But their hands, you have to take care of their hands. They have to make sure that they are in the same position at all times. For example, a mouse and keyboard. Your wrists get tired, but they have to persevere through as well. They also have to persevere through a mental block as well, because they are repeating things pretty consistently. Most competitive games nowadays, you're doing the exact same thing for countless hours. And they have to push through. From an athletic perspective, same thing applies. Except rewards or the goal of that singular person is usually to win. Not much people play sports to get rich, but, you know, at the end of the day, to each their own. Now, finally we're going to be talking about team collaboration. Team collaboration is a huge deal when it comes to sports teams in general. So, from a gamer perspective, when it comes to team collaboration, we're going back to the example of Overwatch. Overwatch League is one of the biggest esports leagues in modern day society now. And you have to play Overwatch with a team. You have to communicate. You have to learn how to talk to your teammates. This helps you bond together. Not just that, but it helps you get to know each other's game styles. It helps to get to know how they play and how they're going to benefit your team. From an athletic perspective, same thing applies. Most sports nowadays are with teams. Those that aren't in teams have a more personal journey, but they still learn how to communicate either way, because they still have coaches, they still have people that are trying to push them forward and help them advance so that they can become the winners. So overall, in my personal opinion, when it comes to being a gamer and an athlete, they're very similar. You have to use the same thing on both sides. These 5 examples are just some of the things that are very similar with these two, but overall, there are a lot of things that can be pushed even beyond. There's a lot of research nowadays that are considering esports actual sports. That's because players have to exert themselves. Players have to manage to train themselves in a specific way so that they can win by the end of the day. So this correlation is no doubt wonderful, to be honest, because this might even change the definition of an athlete in the future. Most athletes aren't considered athletes nowadays, especially if they're playing video games. But hopefully, we'll see where it goes. Thank you for your time. Have a good day.